Welcome to Withdraw Consent. I'm Victor. This is Jack. So I hear there's a black version of the Whitmer kidnapping.
Or the Whitmer kidnapping was the white version of the
Oh,
Newburgh Four.
okay, twist.
So I'm just gonna try to be concise here because like Whitmer's like more recent, kind of nobody cares about this, but it's an interesting story that you should know the history if you really want to understand how terrible the FBI is.
Well, yeah, it shows a pattern.
It's just a pattern, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, what should you be looking for? There's so many things here. Okay, but I'm trying to do concise.
Okay.
Okay, so we're in Newburgh, New York, a dilapidated town, right?
Okay.
Going through economic hardship. We're in 2008. So 2001, 9/11, 2008, terrorism. Okay, so this guy Shahed or Shahid Hussein, I'm just gonna call him Hussein from now on, rolls into town. He's Pakistani ethnicity. In 2008, he rolls in. And he drives expensive cars. He gives everybody free gifts of cash and food, right? And he has radical opinions. So this happens, right?
Okay.
So he's working for the FBI, and he's already been involved in a controversial entrapment case in Albany, New York, in which a local pizza owner and an imam were convicted for terrorist money laundering. Basically, from what I gather from that, is that he had a bunch of money from the sale of a missile, and he basically talked them into. But he gets poor and desperate people who are just like, at one point, we're going to be in this. And one of the conspirators is not going to say anything at all the meetings, but he just eats all the food that comes in. He's this Puerto Rican guy. He's like, so hungry. You know what I mean? And this is what we're dealing with here, okay? So, and then we're going to get to a scandal he had after this, Hussein, at the very end. So, there's this mosque in Newburgh, which is, so they're looking for terrorist cells, is what they're doing, the
Okay.
FBI. And this guy's just an informant. We're going to see all of his past drug charges, murder, all this different stuff that he's done, you know? And then now he's on the hook for the FBI and he's got to go do stuff for him. So he chooses a mosque in Newburgh, which welcomes Shia and Sunni followers and had a good relation with local Jewish and Christian communities to find the terrorists
Oh.
with his radical opinions,
Sure.
right? Oh my gosh. So Hussein first recruited James Cromity, who I was called Cromity after this, who was a loudmouth Walmart employee who claimed to sell drugs and stolen goods. He was also prone to anti-Semitic rants. Hussein then got Cromity to recruit the other three men in the Newburgh Four, which is David Williams, Anta Williams, and Lagur Pan.
Okay.
So there's the Williams men and Pan. Okay, so let's talk about those gentlemen. Both Williams men had been to jail and were struggling. Anta Williams, son of a crack addict mother, had started dealing drugs at 14. Haitian, not Puerto Rican. I said
Okay.
earlier, my apologies. Haitian organ, was possibly schizophrenic. He urinated in bottles in his bedroom, and when offered a trip to Florida, declined because he didn't have a passport.
Okay.
So whatever, you know, he's going to be diagnosed later. So in case you're challenging his schizophrenia,
I was just, he sounds like he just doesn't want to get out of bed when he
Yeah,
needs to
true.
use the bathroom.
true. So you know, it's a long walk. It's cold out there. Maybe he doesn't
Right.
have heating in the hallway. Okay, so Hussein offered Cromity $250,000,
Oh.
a new BMW, a holiday in Puerto Rico, and his own barber shop to set up his own business. And the other three were offered thousands of dollars to do these terrorist stuff.
Okay.
Okay. So let's talk about who Hussein is. So at the trial, when these guys are going to get convicted to 25 to life, he admits his priors. He was arrested for murder in Pakistan. He entered the U.S. on a fake British passport, and he had fraud convictions for a driving license scam. He claimed to be poor, but he received $250,000 from Pakistan in 2009 and 10. He explained away 2 luxury cars, saying that the leader of Pakistan, the head honcho in Pakistan, had given them to him on a trip to New York. He received $100,000 from the FBI just for his work on this case. Okay. So here's Cromity. Okay. This is the loudmouth Walmart employee. So he never did anything at any point to forward this plot when Hussein wasn't around, right? At one point, Hussein gave him a camera and said, I need to go reconnoiter targets. He promptly sold it. So Cromity's the ringleader, and the other 3 hungry guys are
Yeah.
just hungry.
Yeah.
They just want food in their stomach, you know? So he lied about every criminal act he had ever done. He said he was arrested for murder. He was arrested for throwing bombs at police stations. He said he bragged that he stole firearms from his own Walmart and then fenced them on the street. His Walmart did not sell firearms at all. There were no firearms to be sold there. Just everything. This guy's just a lie. And So as they're like, okay, Stinger missiles, we're going to shoot down U.S. aircraft and this and that. Hussein, this is Hussein saying this. Kermitty's trying to get out of this.
Oh.
So Kermitty's the ringleader of the three hungry people, and he's trying to get out of it. So we're going to talk about that right now. He tried to ditch Hussein. For weeks on end, Kermitty pretended to leave Newburgh to avoid him. Kermitty ignored Hussein's phone calls, deleted voicemails, and pretended not to be in when Hussein came around his house. He stopped going to the mosque. Only when Kermitty lost his job and became desperate for money did he contact Hussein again. Even further into the plot, when Kermitty told Hussein he did not think he could do it, Hussein said his overseas terrorist brothers might cut his head off. Kermitty came back on side.
This is terrible.
It's terrible. Honestly, this is pathetic, So now we're talking about paying. I already told you about this. He said little and just devoured copious amounts of free food that Hussein brought. That's the Haitian guy, right? So anyways, basically, here's what they were going to do. They developed a plot to attack Riverdale, which is a Jewish community. And they ended up, so I'm just going to pause right there and say, Riverdale, the Jewish community, they ended up delivering several car bombs with explosives and lethal ball bearings outside Jewish targets in the wealthy area. And it was non-explosive explosives provided by the FBI. They were trained by the FBI on how to use the explosives because now they brought in other people. The first couple of months that Hussein was developing them, he didn't even record anything. Then later on when he's recording, he just switches it on and off randomly when something's not going to, and they admit this all in court. So that happened, right? And the second part of the plan was that they want to use Stinger missiles at a U.S. airbase on behalf of a Pakistani terrorist group. So for this plot, they needed the Stingers. So the FBI is going to provide them with the Stingers, provide them with the ride to get the Stingers, provide them with the training on how to use the Stingers. But they're like, it's not a big enough crime. So they said, hey, what if you get in the FBI car with the FBI agents and we go across the state border and just view it? It's just a couple miles away. View it over there and then come right back. And then that's an even bigger crime. So they could bump the charges up a little bit, Anyways, so then they all get arrested. They're obviously like huge domestic terrorists,
Definitely,
right?
Clearly.
Okay, so all four of them are sentenced 25 to life. It's a little bit confusing because the same judge who convicts them is going to be the same judge who releases them.
Oh.
And so this is U.S. District Judge Colleen McMahon. And so since it's U.S. District Judge, it's a federal case.
Okay.
So somehow they got convicted. She talked terrible about the conviction. Like, I can't believe this happened. So I'm guessing a jury did it, the judge.
Oh, okay.
And then fast forward, 10 years? Yeah, well, since they've been arrested, a dozen. But anyways, and so basically on July 27, 2023, that same judge ordered the release of the Williams men and Payan, not Kermitty. And it was basically a compassionate release, which is funny that they lost their appeal. All this terrible stuff happened. They lost their court case. They appealed and they lost their appeal. They begged for compassion later and got that, which is just crazy because it's like the court system's like, okay, we're terrible. The FBI is terrible. We're all evil. We hate the Constitution, but we can't set a precedent that we're not allowed to do these things. How about we'll make these, brown and black people come grovel later, come beg, and then we'll show them a little. No, it's disgusting. Guys.
Yeah,
you can't win on appeal. The Supreme Court can't take this. Just ban the FBI. No, they don't have the power to do that. But God's sake, okay. So here's what Judge Colleen McMahon said July 27, 2023. The three were, quote, hapless, easily manipulated, and penurious petty criminals, end quote, caught up more than a decade ago in a scheme driven by overzealous FBI agents and a dodgy informant. Here's another quote. Quote, the real lead conspirator was the United States, end quote. Quote, the sentence was the product of a fictitious plot to do things that these men had never remotely contemplated and that were never going to happen, end quote.
100%.
She excoriated the government for sending a villain of an informant to troll among the poorest and weakest men for terrorists who might prove susceptible to an offer of much-needed cash in exchange for committing a faux crime. Look at, they point out in these articles, there's a couple articles. I put an article right when they were convicted from The Guardian. I put an article from July 2023 when they were released in the description. And they point out in the article that unfortunately there's plenty of people in this country who are so down on their luck and so desperate, even hungry, that if you offered them enough money, they would do a certain thing that's criminal. And it's sad that that is, but that doesn't mean you should go do it.
100%.
Because the deal is, look, if I'm like, hey, I want to go find a terrorist, right? I'm taking this briefcase of cash and I'm going to go pay somebody. That's a crime what I'm doing. It's a crime what I'm doing. And if he agrees to it, then that's a crime too. We're co-conspirators. But this Hussein's a criminal for doing this.
100%.
Every FBI agent involved is a criminal. These guys okay. Basically, citing concerns for the men's health and her own qualms about the case, McMahon cut the 25-year mandatory minimum sentences she imposed in 2011 to time served plus 90 days. She said that would allow time for probation officials to prepare and for a lawyer to line up supportive housing for Pan, who has a severe mental illness. The fourth man, James Committee, wasn't part of the compassionate release request and is expected to complete his sentence in 2030. Okay, just as a closing to the story, a few years later, Hussein was in the public eye again when a stretch limo crashed in rural Schoharie, New York, killing 20. Not a typo. Hussein owned the limo company operated by his son, Noman Hussein. After it emerged that the limo failed a safety inspection a month before the crash and that the driver did not have a commercial license, Noman Hussein was charged with criminally negligent homicide and manslaughter. His lawyer blamed the repair shop for the vehicle's problems and said that the client was being treated like a scapegoat. Noman Hussein was convicted. This man is serving 5 to 15 years in prison.
For killing 20 people?
Not 1 year per person. And these guys get 25 years.
For something... Yeah.
Okay, and that's my entire story. So what do you think of the story? It's beautiful, isn't it?
It is. So did the ringleader guy...
Committee?
Yeah.
Or Hussein?
No.
Okay, committee.
Did he not get released because he wasn't poor enough? So there wasn't like enough compassion on him? Or like...
No, it said he didn't appeal for the compassionate release.
Oh.
So the other three got together and appealed for it. I don't know. It could have been through like an ACLU or some type of organization. Gotcha. And then basically his lawyer had a statement saying... oh, we're now going to go down this road, and based on the precedent set by the other three, we think we have a good chance. Okay.
So then my next, I don't know, thought or question is, I'm sitting there as you're explaining the story, especially early on, I'm like trying to picture what's going on in the FBI where this plan is hatched. Like, are they bored, or do they have a quota where if we have to catch this number of terrorists or our budget doesn't get reduced? Like, no one got helped with this. There was an ideological thing where they're trying to make... rights look like terrorists, right wingers, or, there's nothing.
Right. So they said that the budgetary concerns were important.
Oh, was? Okay.
Same thing in the ATF raid on Waco.
Sure.
I mean, same thing in the Oklahoma City bombing happened to be right at the time. There was an omnibus bill,
Okay.
So that was a concern. But also, it was like this. They caught Hussein for something, probably the driver license scam. They flipped him, and they sent him out to do things. They didn't tell him what to do. So he got committee himself, got committee to develop the other three people, and then he turns it over to the FBI. The FBI ends up saying, oh, well, good job, $100,000, and we also won't convict you for that other thing.
Oh, okay.
So but when you come to the FBI, you should be like, you did what?
Right.
You think this, we're Constitution, not Pakistan, but no, none of that at the FBI. Another thing is that they were like, wait, the attorney prosecuting the case, the federal attorney, and he's like, no, there was no plan for $250,000. That wasn't in it, And then Hussein's up on the stand. He's like, yeah, no, we used to call it the whole plan. Oh, sorry about that. The whole plan is the $250,000 plan. That's the name of the plan. So they questioned the FBI officers, did you know about that? No, we never heard that term before. Nobody's ever heard that term. They asked Hussein again on the stand, and he's like, oh, I mean, just in my head, that was the name of the plan, and that's why. I mean, it's just, the whole thing's absurd. It's absurd, And okay, say all this stuff happens, and then you just get a judge. And what's the judge going to do? Just throw the thing out.
Right.
Just throw it away, It's amazing. So not one part of the system works.
Right. It's all broke.
Yeah, the law enforcement, judicial, then the higher level judicial who's going to handle your appeals.
Yeah, who doesn't just laugh this out of court immediately?
These are federal crimes. How do they not get pardoned?
Right.
How do they not get pardoned?
I'm totally with you.
It's Obama.
Oh, it's
It's
true.
Obama. It's 2011. And then the case comes up and he just goes out and says, hey,
Yeah.
go stop the bus on the way to the federal prison with your limo. Throw them
Right.
in. You know what I mean? Like, you guys are losers, but not that much of losers.
Right, you don't deserve this.
Yeah, like, for goodness sakes, at just all points, it's a fail. Capital fail.
Totally. So, depressing video.
Yeah,
Very
depressing.
interesting.
Yeah, the
but,
next
I
one's
mean-
not going to be as depressing.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to have a two-parter about Malcolm X. And really good stuff. I learned a ton. I didn't know a lot going in, but yeah, really good video. Very interesting.
It's a two-parter, yeah.
Yeah. So Wednesday and Thursday. And hopefully you enjoyed this and you see the pattern that we see in every level of the federal government of the United States. And check out videos on Wednesday and Thursday. Hopefully you'll learn something. And we'll see you then.